Honorable ministers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere honor and pleasure to join you at the Gender and Development Forum. I wish to applaud Barbados as the first small island developing state to host a quadrennial session of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Your warm and welcoming Caribbean spirit travels from the shores of Barbados to the world. The pursuit of gender equality is one that is close to my heart and one that I champion wherever I go. If there's one thing that I am sure of, whether in the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, or in the Pacific, I have seen the will and determination of women entrepreneurs who go against the grain to pursue economic security and independence. They shine as beacons of inspiration to us all. But I've also seen the daunting hurdles they have had to overcome to achieve this, and the many more women who are still trying to do just that. For too many women, economic security is still way beyond their reach. I realize that if we wish to see a future of sustainable and climate resilient development, women must be at the heart of it and not a mere afterthought. Today, I would like to share my vision for the future of trade, the role women will play, and what the international community can do to put us on the right track. It is my firm belief that trade policy should play an active role. Trade should benefit everyone. We must take deliberate and thoughtful steps to remove these barriers, to widen women's participation and boost their contribution to the global economy. This is a moral imperative, but there's also an economic basis. If we invest in gender equality, we can add up to $12 trillion to global growth by 2025. By any measure, that is a sound investment. The pandemic has served to remind us of how much is at stake. Our progress towards gender equality has not moved as fast as we would have hoped. Prior to the pandemic, we were on track to achieve gender parity within 99 years. Our progress was hard-fought but fragile. In just the last year and a half alone, this has stretched to 135 years. The pandemic exacerbates gender inequality in every sphere of life. We saw a dramatic spike in gender-based violence as economic insecurity increased. Sectors such as tourism, textiles, and apparel were among the hardest hit in the pandemic and are among the largest employers of women globally. Women represent 70% of the global workforce in the health and social welfare sectors and are at the front line of the pandemic. The issue of gender inequality transcends borders. It does not sit neatly in the Ministry of Gender Affairs. It is a cross-cutting issue that presents barriers for women to access property, education, economic opportunities, and more. While the pandemic presents a stumbling block to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030, we must not be deterred. As we lay out recovery plans for the pandemic, we must uproot gender inequality wherever we see it. We must build a foundation in every sphere of society that prizes inclusivity. However, this intention has not yet been fully ingrained in our pandemic response to date. A mere 10% of economic measures introduced in response to the pandemic took gender into account. We have so much more work to do. For this to be possible, we need to determine the unique challenges that women face and address them directly. For many small and medium-sized enterprises, access to financing, training, and market intelligence are key factors of success. But for women-owned small businesses, these challenges are compounded by additional barriers that are often not captured in our government response, such as inherent gender bias, limited social services, and limited opportunities for mentorship. It goes without saying that a one-size-fits-all approach does not work for all. And this is all the more reason why bringing a gender lens to trade is a necessity. The international community has a critical role to play in mainstreaming gender into economic and trade policies. We must set clear and sincere intentions to end gender inequality as quickly as possible, not only in our recovery from the pandemic, but for future generations of women entrepreneurs. And this intention must be backed up by action. True transformative change is only possible with collective action. And for this, we share a collective responsibility. The Geneva Trade Hub has made collective action a priority. There's growing recognition that supporting women-owned small businesses is essential to tangible economic gains. In fact, ITC, WTO, and UNCTAD all have dedicated programs on gender and women's economic empowerment. In 2017, 127 countries joined the Buenos Aires Declaration on Women and Trade with a view to promote women's economic empowerment. This was the first time the global community placed trade firmly at the heart of the multilateral trade agenda. Indeed, this has resulted in 2020 in the establishment of a WTO informal working group on trade and gender. This group is leading the discussion on the role of WTO agreements and processes in supporting gender equality and what a deliverable for the next ministerial could look like. UNCTAD has trade and gender programs which focus on cutting-edge economic analysis and tools to assess the impact of trade agreements on women. Through this work, hundreds of policymakers have been empowered with the knowledge to effect change in their countries. ITC works on the ground, boosting the competitiveness of women producers and entrepreneurs, and ensure they not only increase their participation in global value chains, but also that they do so on better terms and create more opportunities for women through employment and supply chains. Moreover, we work to transform their ecosystem through better data on trade and gender, trade policies, government procurement frameworks, and regional trade agreements that work for women. But again, there's still so much more to do. These initiatives are a start, but there is room to scale up, widen networks, and deepen collaboration. Going forward, we need to rally around three key deliverables. First, digitalization has changed the world radically, both in how we produce and consume. Our strategy to support women in trade needs to adapt to these changes. With the right knowledge and resources, women entrepreneurs can compete in the digital economy and shape its course. Secondly, we can no longer afford to work in silos. Our response to the climate crisis affects every policy and business decision. Women are a critical resource to fight climate change, be it through their agricultural practices, their leadership, or their technological innovations. Green trade needs to work for women, and women's economic empowerment needs to be framed within a green trade agenda. Thirdly and finally, we need to scale up our resources and platforms. Doing so requires not only additional resources for the trade and gender agenda, it also calls for better cooperation amongst international organizations, finance institutions, and ministries of gender affairs. Through this alliance, we can harness our collective power and create real opportunities for women at the domestic level and beyond. Taken together, it can help clear the way for more women entrepreneurs to emerge and facilitate fuller participation in the economy. We all must champion this cause in unison. As we look to UNCTAD 15 and the WTO's MC12 later this year, we hope to reverse the damage done during the pandemic and set the right course for the future. The discussions held in the Gender and Development Forum will be vital as we seek out the voices of the international community and listen, truly listen, to the needs of women entrepreneurs. We have the resources and the will. Now is the time to step up and spring into action. Thank you.